Hey gang, what's up? Just Ehren right here, Question Period Canada. Happy Thursday. We've got such a crazy show ready to go. It's good to see everybody. Let's get this thing kicked off. Let's start this.
Oh, hello. Do you have a warrant to be here?
When I'm Prime Minister, I will keep my promises.
Isn't it funny to listen to a trust fund baby lecturing Canadians about being too rich?
Mr. Speaker, we see proof that the Conservatives simply don't understand that low-income families don't benefit from tax breaks because they don't pay taxes.
Canadians are struggling to put food on the table, and what are the Liberals doing? Well, they're giving $25 million to Costco and Loblaws. And what are the
Speaker, the NDP leader was just asking about why the Prime Minister gave tens of millions of dollars in corporate handouts to powerful grocery chains. So the answer, of course, is that he voted to let the Prime Minister do that. Not a single penny of that money could have gone without the vote of the NDP coalition partner. But
Mr. Speaker, we can see very clearly that all the stories out about the lobbyists' connections with the Leader of the Opposition are actually hurting the Leader of the Opposition, which is why he's asking those questions of the NDP. But he has an opportunity right now, Mr. Speaker.
You know, this show reminds me of a 25-cent cigar.
Oh, yeah? Why is that?
Because it's cheap and it stinks.
We deserve better. Nous méritons mieux.
One federal government ministry seems to be hiding the government's involvement in a partisan Liberal event with the Governor General on Trudeau's latest censorship law. Unfortunately, a second government agency may have accidentally spilled the beans. Today, I'll show you how two agencies were hit with simultaneous access filings by Rebel News and therefore did not have a chance to get their stories straight.
The other thing that's really critical to understand, David, is that people talk to me about freedom of expression. I'm duty-bound to defend that and always will. It is a charter-protected right. I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution.
Last month, the Governor General, Mary Simon, defied all nonpartisan conventions of her office and engaged in a partisan Liberal event promoting a flagship piece of Trudeau legislation. Simon hosted a roundtable about the Online Harms Act, a piece of onerous censorship legislation that has not yet been passed, but which makes hurting someone's feelings online a criminal offense. It also makes hate speech a crime with a maximum sentence of life in prison. The odious law will allow for anonymous hurt feelings complaints, which could precipitate $20,000 in fines. Simon's roundtable involved notable publicly funded left-wing internet whiners like anti-parent trans activist Faye Johnstone, the Public Health Agency of Canada's Theresa Tam, and, of course, unemployed TikTok journalist Rachel Gilmore. They were all there on the necessity of Trudeau's law pushed by Arif Virani, his justice minister, who was also part of this roundtable.
I deserve better.
Je mérite mieux.
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 We deserve better. Nous méritons mieux.
You can learn more about Simon's abuse of her nonpartisan role and sign the petition at firesimon.com. Now, Rebel News, well, we did what we do. We filed for access documents about how Simon's partisan and completely unbalanced roundtable came together and how the attendees were selected to skew the event's tone. The first department we hit with an access filing? Justice. How did the Justice Minister come to be at the Governor General's event? And did anyone in the ministry have any apprehensions about this partisan event at the so-called nonpartisan Governor General's residence? We asked for all internal communications on the event, and Justice says they have none. So the Minister of Justice just wandered into Rideau Hall and walked in to find an event promoting his legislation with no briefing notes or emails or anything? Sure, Sure he did. The next department we hit was the Public Health Agency of Canada. The request was the same. All the internal communications, this time on Theresa Tam's attendance at Simon's disgraceful event. And guess what? The response was completely the opposite. Still no records were turned over, but not because there were none, but because there were too many. In fact, Public Health took a delay of 105 days because they need extra time to round up a, quote, large number of records, unquote. We can submit a complaint to the Commissioner of Information, and we will. I mean, how does one agency have so many records on a round table on a piece of legislation, and the other ministry, the one with the minister who's behind the legislation, has no records? It's unbelievable. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. We won't let the Justice Ministry get away with this very weird cover-up. We will appeal. To offset our research and filing costs, please consider making a donation at rebelinvestigates.com.
Bonjour, Canada. It is so great to be back home in Canada after spending a few days in the nation of California. Not reconnecting with my acting roots, but rather trying to find the root cause for climate change. There I met with California President Gavin Newsom over a lovely meal at French Canadian Laundry. We made a lot of progress on climate change, but there's still much work to be done. President Newsom was kind enough to give me this souvenir, a flag of California, which is cute because it has a bear on it, much like we'd see out the back window of our cabins. Unfortunately, I fear that California also gave me COVID-19. This is the third year in a row that I've contracted COVID-19. I'm like the Tampa Bay Lightning of infectious diseases. And although I feel very good, I'm not quite out of the North Woods yet. But I would like to thank you all for the wild enthusiasm that I saw on social media when you discovered that I had contracted COVID-19 for the third straight time. Thank you. I am well, and I hope you are well too.
Hey gang, what's up? Just Ehren right here, Question Period Canada, learning all about Canadian federal politics, sharing that with you. We've got these committee meetings. They're so exciting, guys. We get to see all the heavy hitters: Rachel Thomas, Larry Brock, Michael Barrett, Michael Cooper, Stephanie Cousy, Shannon Stubbs, Rick Perkins. There are so many heavy hitters, and the witnesses are always difficult. They never have the right answers. It's super interesting every time. Let's get into it. Let's check out another crazy committee video. Let's check it out.
Why don't we go to Mr. Brock? Yeah, go ahead for 2 minutes, Mr. Brock.
Thank you. Thank you for the witnesses for your attendance. I apologize. I had some technical difficulties myself. I didn't listen to your opening remarks, but I received some notes, and anyone can probably ask or answer this question, but I think it's probably more appropriate for you, Ms. Carruthers. Something in regards to your opinion that you took a proactive approach to not only the audit itself, but the recommendations. Isn't it fair to say that you were literally caught with your hand in the cookie jar, that the jig was up, public opinion was so strong with regards to this failed, corrupt practices exhibited by a number of departments in terms of outside contracting with outside consultants? So it wasn't an issue of you taking proactive measures within your own department, but literally the public demanded more transparency and accountability. Is that a better way of phrasing what's really going on here?
Thank you very much for the question. I would say, we did take proactive measures in that we weren't actually conducting this audit because we believed or were notified of any wrongdoing within the department. It really was a way for us to kind of assess the internal controls that we do have within the system so that we could then better be able to address any issues that did come up.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So I would push back a little bit, Ms. Carruthers, because we had a similar audit in 2019. And a lot of the findings in 2019 in terms of the irregularities of the contracting practices, the contract splitting, a number of contracts not being signed properly, people not having the appropriate authority, was revealed in 2019, 4 years ago. So I don't know how long you've been in your current role or at Global Affairs, but clearly nothing was learned by way of any sort of systemic change within the department, because this is deja vu all over again. Isn't that a fair statement?
Well, thank you very much for the question. What I would say is, yes, the time frame for this audit went from April 2018 to June 2023. Over the course of that period, the department actually did make a lot of changes to our system in order to rectify a lot of these issues. And in fact, I think if you went back, and which we have, and to look over the last couple of years, what's taken place is we've actually reduced the occurrence of errors in our post-payment verification process. So if we look back,
to be frank,
I'm afraid that is our time, but I'm sure we'll get back to it next round.
To Ms. Lalonde, although you weren't sworn or affirmed to tell the truth, any witness that appears at a parliamentary committee is expected to tell the truth. First question to you is, prior to your attendance today, did you read your audit?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. Yes, of course, I read my audit.
You just responded to a question put to you by my colleague, Ms. Block, that no cases of contracting splitting, which allows consultants to abuse taxpayer money. You said there were no instances. Your report states, this is paragraph 2.1 under the heading of contract splitting, through the review of both the statistical random and risk-based sample, the audit team assessed whether there were instances of contract splitting. In the statistical random sample.
Pour Monsieur Brock. Point of order, Mr. Chair. In the context where we're talking about the importance of the health of our interpreters, we're saying that the quality of the sound is not good.
Mr. Brock.
Thank you, Chair. Question to you, Ms. Lalonde. Much earlier in the meeting, you provided a response to a question about the procurement process at Global Affairs, and you made a comment that the process is complex. Your words. I'm going to push back, and I'm going to suggest to you the process is not complex with respect to procurement across all ministries, particularly your ministry, when the people who are in charge of the procurement actually honestly do their job and follow the rules. Would you agree with that?
Thank you for the question, Mr. President. Yes, I would.
Thank you. To you, Ms. Carruthers, again, earlier in this meeting, you made a couple of comments that piqued my interest. One is that you are firmly of the belief, notwithstanding this damning report from the auditor department, that you delivered value for money, you delivered value for Canadians, your words. And that you're also of the mindset that there is no evidence of wrongdoing with respect to the factual findings of a very small sample. A sample of under 100 contracts, over 8,000 contracts in total over this 4-year period, a fail rate of close to 25%. You determine there's no evidence of wrongdoing. You may conclude that there's been instances of irregularities, but I view this from a different lens. I view this from the lens of a former Crown attorney for 30 years. And there is clear examples, in my view, of criminality here and outright corruption. The Trudeau government, the whole department with respect to procurement and contracting in general, is just rife with abuse and mismanagement. And it's
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Mr. Brock is completely, misdirecting and misinforming and this committee.
That's not a point of order, Chair.
Okay, I will decide what's a point of order or not, and make your comment brief, Mr. Genuis.
I would just refer Mr. Kuzmierczak to the scripture I referred to earlier about trying to
Thank you,
remove
Mr.
us
Generous.
from the blood
Mr.
that they were walking
Kuzmierczak, it's not a point of order, and I will comment. I find it very ironic, this coming from you after your last intervention. I don't think anyone should be throwing rocks inside of glass houses. Mr. Brock, continue, please.
Yes, so the culture of abuse and mismanagement in the Justin Trudeau government is alive and well at Global Affairs. The instances of irregularities that you call it, I call it corruption, no signed contracts, yet money was paid out, contracts signed for services rendered after the fact, one contract signed by an individual who benefited from the transaction, contract splitting.
Appel au règlement, Monsieur le Président.
Okay.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Translation again.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. The sound was of poor quality.
We're obviously having lots of tech issues today. Do you want to just back up?
Is there still a problem?
Let me
Is there
just
still
check
a problem,
with,
Chair?
Yeah, I'm afraid it's just not coming. You're perfectly loud and clear inside the room. Unfortunately, just for the translation, there is some glitch. Perhaps, there's 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. Perhaps, Mr. Generous?
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics. So what do you think, gang? Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Point of order, Mr. Chair. Till the next video, thank you for watching this one. I'm Ehren. Like, subscribe, share.
Bonjour, Canada. I want to remind everyone that politicians cannot direct front offices in a democratic society. But make no mistake, with the Emergencies Act, the RCMP will intervene. Everything is on the table because the way the Montreal Canadiens run their franchise has to end. And it will end. The absolute safest way for this to end is for fans to return their season ticket packages now. If you're still participating in buying tickets or watching on TV, you're hurting your neighbors, especially if you have kids watching with you. The NHL is governed by laws, regulations, and practices that ensure that funds cannot be used for borderline criminal activity. And these firings, hirings, and trades should be illegal. I want to be very clear. Marc Bergevin holding our team hostage and the collective Canadiens fatigue we are all facing are two very separate things. If you continue to support the Habs because you cannot stand the idea of rooting for Ottawa, you now need to understand that you are supporting the Molson brothers. The consequences for that are becoming more and more severe. You can be ridiculed by friends, family, and neighbors, or lampooned on Twitter, which will affect your job, your livelihood, and even your ability to travel to the U.S. to visit the Stanley Cup. We've heard your frustrations with this team. We have heard you. Go home. It's time for the federal government to take over control of the Canadiens. This ownership, this front office, they're not the story of the 2022 season. Bergevin and Ducharme are not the story of the Canadiens in 2022. From the very first game, we Canadians have stepped up to be there for one another as we watch them play. We're tired of this season. It sucks. We're frustrated, worn down, no more worn down than our defensemen on the top line who have been going flat out all year. Everyone has Canadiens fatigue, but we will continue to do what Canadians do best. Randomly announce that we stand united. This season has sucked for all Canadians, but the Emergencies Act cannot and will not allow the Canadiens to be the laughing stock of the league. Lastly, let me be perfectly clear about what the Emergencies Act does not allow us to do. The federal government simply cannot appoint Guy Carbonneau as GM, top-line center, and coach. We all regret and rue Bergevin and Ducharme. But Martin St. Louis is a real leader who will get us through this crisis in our country. Our long national nightmare will be over.
Don't have to listen to Bill's Bandy Doughboy or Team Sexy. I'll tell you what. I'll have a little drink. Celebrate your little picnicky.
This place is going to shit again. You haven't started the recycling program. The park is a complete mess.
Frig off, Burp. Listen for a play at the...
Leahy, I'm not judging anybody here, all right? Okay?
Please don't show this to anyone.
I'm going to hospital. I'm not going to hospital, you idiot. Just think about Look at my... It's a flesh wound.
Ricky shot himself. Like, he shot himself, and then he's yelling at us, man. That's ridiculous, dude. He's all yelling at us. We didn't even do anything, man. It's his fault. What do we get for it? Bullshit.
Ang tua irmã chaya no cambarro anuri, no camai, no camwaka, na anuri, no yuyuá, na warrão chinavo panque tu chinan chaval aqui, chinamo kikirani, tsai chavai kirani, tsai makikirani. Awama wanana, no maono wai sharai.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Uniting for Freedom means no mandatory digital ID. Uniting for Freedom means banning all of my ministers from any involvement in the World Economic Forum.
Hey gang, what's up? Just Ehren right here, Question Period Canada. How y'all doing? You recognize Pierre Poilievre, the Newsmaker of the Year from 2023 by the Canadian Press. He's supposed to be the next Prime Minister. People are interested on his thoughts about the Great Reset. Lots of questions about the WEF. We're going to answer some of those questions in this video. Watch Trudeau take some pot shots and just have a good time. Learn a little bit about Pierre's stance. People say he has none. Sounds like he might. Let's take a peek at some of these pieces.
First of all, modern MMT, they call it, modern monetary theory. MMT can also stand for more money today or magic money tree. It's this new theory where governments will just simply print cash. The banks will the central bank prints the cash, sends it over in a Brinks truck every day to the Prime Minister's office, and he just starts throwing the money around. Well, what we have now is a little bit different. To start with, we don't have a direct sale of the debt to the bank. It first gets funneled through the financial sector in Canada so that they can take a piece and take a cut and get even richer before that newly printed cash trickles down to the people on the bottom. But the bottom line is that what we have today is very similar to MMT. It is printing mass sums of cash that inflates the assets of the rich and raises the consumer prices of the poor. That is a massive new inflation tax that will only help big government, big business, and the super rich at the expense of the working class. That's why we're speaking out against it. As for Mr. Carney, you're right, he's part of the World Economic Forum that the finance minister joins, which says that in 2030, only 9 years from now, you will own nothing and you will love it. That is the agenda of these people. Maybe that's why over the last year they've done everything in their power to make housing completely unaffordable so that nobody can afford it except them, a small group of landed aristocrats, while the common people are out in the field doing the work. We on this side want to democratize property ownership, make it available to everybody.
The Great Reset is a book written by Klaus Schwab. We're going to listen to former Premier of Alberta, Jason Kenney, give us a breakdown of what that's all about. He gives a good explanation.
First of all, what is this Great Reset? Pierre Poilievre, the federal conservative finance critic, recently raised concerns about this, and then he was attacked by some in the media and by the Liberals for supposedly circulating conspiracy theories. Well, the Great Reset is actually the name of a book by a very prominent advocate of it. His name is Klaus Schwab. He sent me a copy. I guess he sent one to probably every government leader around the world. And Klaus Schwab's thesis in his book is that governments and societies, the world, should, quotes, seize the opportunity of the public health and economic crisis to reimagine the world and radically change policies. Now, in what ways? I would describe it as a grab bag of left-wing ideas for less freedom and more government, for more government intervention, for policies that would, I think, create massive poverty, particularly energy policies that he is advocating. So Klaus Schwab, by the way, is the president and founder of the World Economic Forum, also known as the Davos Summit.
Live from Davos, join us all week for our exclusive interviews.
In the past several times, you have denounced the World Economic Forum, and you've made it clear to pledge that if your party forms government, you will ban your cabinet ministers from being involved with the World Economic Forum. Yet, I'm also aware of many Canadians who applaud you for saying that, but also have reservations on whether or not the claim is authentic because they see images of your name being on the World Economic Forum site, and also because you worked closely with former MP John Baird, who at one point was a World Economic Forum Young Global Leader in a campaign. So my question for clarification purposes, for those concerned about foreign globalist organizations potentially encroaching on our nation's sovereignty, does your pledge to ban cabinet ministers from being associated with or involved with the WEF expand to those you hire as staff as well as advisors?
Yes. No staff, no ministers, no MPs in my caucus will be involved whatsoever in that organization. It is a group of high-flying, high-tax, high-carbon hypocrites who all got on their private jets to fly off to a remote ski village where they talked about how working-class people should not be allowed to heat their homes or drive their pickup trucks. I'm not going to work for a group of globalist billionaires who serve their own interests at the expense of everyone else. And I'd like to specifically point out Mark Carney. Here he was, celebrating the central banks who caused the inflation by printing trillions of dollars so that people like multimillionaires like him could have their asset values inflated while the purchasing power of working class people and seniors was wasted away by inflation. A massive wealth transfer from the have-nots to the have-yachts. A common-sense conservative government will bring home control of our democracy to this country, and it's not just on that issue. We will ban the IRGC to end the interference of the 700 agents that are operating in this country on behalf of the terrorist regime in Tehran, and that's according to Global News. We'll shut down foreign-controlled police stations. We will bring in a foreign influence registry. We will bring home control of our democracy, and we'll make this a country that works for its people, the common people, and the common sense of the common people, united for our common home.
Everyone knows Trudeau's a member of the WEF, but he never talks about it. He throws stones like this at Poilievre all the time. It's unreasonable. Kind of funny.
This is what he should say. I reject categorically the endorsement and the support of Diagolon and of Alex Jones. Because Diagolon is a violent white nationalist organization, and Alex Jones is a garbage conspiracy theorist.
And that is why I've made it clear that my ministers in my government will be banned from participating in the World Economic Forum when I'm in government. Yeah.
for Canada. Work for Canada. If you want to go to Davos to the conference, make it a one-way ticket. But you can't be part of our government and working for a policy agenda that is against the interests of our people.
We hear from a lot of people, a lot of sources, that Pierre Poilievre doesn't have a stance on the WEF. Those pieces indicate that he does, and that he's not for it. The Great Reset, what is that all about? Maybe we should read the book. Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. My name's Ehren. This is Question Period Canada. Like and subscribe, get notified, share.
Yeah, it looks like we made it. Look how far we've come, baby. We might have took.
Trust has been eroding in recent years, which is why this week's meeting on rebuilding trust has been so important.
Rebuilding trust with whom exactly? I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you finish. But here's the thing, as far as the public opinion is concerned, they don't trust you and they never will because they didn't elect you. And here's the thing, while we're at it, Epstein didn't kill himself, and there are probably people in this very forum who were clients of him.
You mentioned that the biggest threat to a cohesive and sustainable world was security.
Mr. Schwab, I'm sorry, but the biggest threat to the world is the fake stream news media. And the second biggest threat to the world is this very organization, the World Economic Forum, which is the Communist Party that was not elected by the people. And that's why I keep telling y'all should go fuck yourself. And I appreciate the World Economic Forum providing me the opportunity to be on this stage and say, fuck you, Klaus Schwab, and fuck your New World Order. We, the people, were born free, we will stay free, and you and all of your globalist friends, including everyone in this room, can go fuck yourself.
Birth to a newborn. Imagine you've just given birth to a newborn. And instead of enjoying this precious, once-in-a-lifetime moment, you smell hard drugs in the air. Crack or meth being smoked just a few hospital rooms over. Imagine you've been in a car accident, you're fighting for your life, and someone in the bed next to you lights up a crack pipe. You look down and see that that person has a large machete in their bag. You tell the nurse or the doctor, and they say, sorry, it's allowed now, and we've been forbidden from touching or taking away these weapons and drugs, so you're just going to have to hope that this person does not harm you. Now, this might sound like something out of a horror film, not from the real world. But unfortunately, after 9 years of Trudeau and the NDP, the real world is a horror film. Because what I just described is exactly what the BC Nurses Union has publicly reported. They have reported that members of their union were unable to breastfeed their kids because they had breathed in crack or meth smoke at work and were worried about the poison that might then have contaminated their breast milk. This is the almost hallucinogenic reality that 9 years of Trudeau and the NDP have caused. After 9 years of Trudeau, everything costs more. Work doesn't pay. You make it. Trudeau takes it. Housing costs have more than doubled. Here in Vancouver, if you take the average paycheck and try to pay the mortgage on the average house, it eats up more than 100% of your pre-tax income. So even if the average Vancouverite were to stop paying taxes, stop eating, stop taking a vacation, stop buying clothes, stop driving, stop doing anything else, they still wouldn't have enough out of their paycheck to make a mortgage payment every single month. Vancouver is now the third most overpriced housing market in the world, and Toronto has been declared the worst housing bubble on planet Earth after 9 years of Trudeau. After 9 years of Trudeau, we have the worst economic growth in the G7. Our per capita GDP has been falling now for 6 consecutive quarters. Canadians are earning $4,200 less than they were on track to earn before Trudeau. Per person. That's $17,000 per family. I say all of this because obviously, let's not be naive about it. The immense financial strain that people are under is contributing to the drug crisis that has exploded over the last 9 years. But we cannot ignore the fact that Trudeau and the NDP have imposed radical policies that made everything worse. They have decriminalized hard drugs, a mistake that the NDP has now admitted has contributed to the problem. They allowed crack to be smoked in parks next to kids. They allowed meth to be smoked on public transit next to seniors late at night when our elderly were all alone. And of course, they allowed hard drug use and weapons in our hospitals. They continue to give out tax-funded opioids provided by the same companies that caused the crisis in the first place, who continue to profit off the misery, and the results are in. There is an increase of 380% in drug overdose deaths under these NDP Liberal policies. This radical ideological approach is killing our people. Now, it will be a while before we hold the carbon tax election, at which time common sense Conservatives can choose a different path to bring home safety. In the meantime, we are determined to protect our hospitals from this Liberal NDP insanity. And that is why I'm here today. Since Trudeau formed government, over 4,200 Canadians have died of overdoses, a 400% increase in Nanaimo alone. The results have been catastrophic. The BC Nurses Union has reported that meth has been smoked in a unit just hours before the birth of a newborn baby. In northern BC, the Public Health Agency put out a memo telling hospital staff to allow patients to bring knives and other weapons into hospitals. This is the result of the wacko decriminalization Trudeau and the NDP brought in. 2 years ago, the Liberal government granted the BC NDP request to allow hard drugs across the province, including in public places. This reckless and radical and wacko policy has killed 2,500 British Columbians in 1 year alone. Meanwhile, community spaces like soccer fields and hospitals and city squares are devastated by crime. The Abbotsford Soccer Association had to comb through the field before the games to make sure there were no dirty needles, crack pipes, or other drug paraphernalia. British Columbians are seeing their pets have drug overdoses from sniffing dangerous substances that have been left in formerly idyllic and peaceful parks. Not only that, but now Trudeau is considering a request from Toronto to replicate his radical experiment with decriminalization. Enough is enough. Common sense Conservatives will not allow this devastation and this experiment to play out in other Canadian communities. Canadians deserve a government that will keep hard drugs out of hospitals and will protect staff and patients. We will pass the Safe Hospitals Act. It will create an aggravating factor for sentencing anyone who brings an illegal and unauthorized weapon into a hospital. 2, it will take away the discretion from the federal health minister under the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act to decriminalize illicit drugs like fentanyl and meth, crack, and heroin in hospitals. This means that if Trudeau grants Toronto or Montreal's request to decriminalize hard drugs, our hospitals will be protected. We will also push for the immediate passage of common sense Conservative MP Todd Doherty's Bill C-321, which will create an aggravating factor for assaults committed against healthcare workers and first responders. In other words, if you attack a nurse, a paramedic, or a doctor, you will go to jail for longer. To be clear, this common sense bill, the Safe Hospitals Act, will not apply to any drugs prescribed by medical professionals like doctors and nurses. The Safe Hospitals Act will stop some of the insanity that Trudeau and the NDP have unleashed in our communities. Not only that, we will give Canadians a choice in the next election between a costly coalition of Trudeau and the NDP that tax your food, punish your work, take your money, double your housing cost, and unleash crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder in your community. Or common sense Conservatives who will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Now, let's bring it home. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll now have time for questions from the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Poilievre. Chuck Shing with the Canadian Press. Do you have any concerns that the province may push back regarding this being viewed as a curb on their jurisdiction in hospital settings, and how do you plan to react to that if there is pushback from the provinces? Thank you.
They might. The NDP and Trudeau are equally radical on these questions, but I'd leave it up to British Columbians. Do British Columbians believe that someone should be allowed to smoke crack, meth, and bring machetes into hospitals right next to patients who are trying to recover from cancer or a heart attack? Or do they believe in my common sense approach that would ban the drugs, stop giving out tax-funded opioids, and instead invest in treatment and recovery to bring our loved ones home drug-free?
Thank you. Next question.
Hey, Ethan Sawyer, CBC News. Federal Conservatives have been skeptical of the billions in taxpayer money backstopping electric vehicle manufacturing. Would you cancel these investment tax credits?
We always look at Justin Trudeau's many promises and we judge them not on what he says, but what actually happens. My platform will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. And it will also reform our tax system to bring home the hundreds of billions of dollars of jobs, businesses, and opportunities that Trudeau's radical policies have driven abroad. We will bring home powerful paychecks by green-lighting major projects with faster approval times. We will approve major resource projects in this country rather than bringing in the resources from dirty dictators. We will cut taxes in small businesses for job creators, and we will allow Canadians to pay less and bring home more. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, Mr. Poilievre. Would a Poilievre government cancel the effective raise in capital gains tax?
There isn't one right now. So we're going to see what Justin Trudeau again has promised something. Looks like he's backing down. He's taken the promise out of his budget, and with only a month to go, still no legislation. So what we know is that whenever Justin Trudeau raises taxes, it's waitresses, barbers, shop floor, manufacturing workers who pay the price. Remember, he said that he wouldn't raise taxes on the middle class. 80% of middle class Canadians are paying higher income tax than when Trudeau was first elected. He said his carbon tax would never go up more than 11 cents a litre, and now it's up to 17 cents, headed to 61 cents a litre. He said his deficits would never be bigger than $10 billion and they'd be gone in 3 years. Well, here we are, $600 billion and an inflation crisis later. That promise is in smithereens on the floor as well. I always find it interesting when the media comes to me and says, Justin Trudeau has promised a utopia. Are you going to remove his utopia if you get elected? Well, let's see this utopia first. So far, it has, the word utopia, ironically, in ancient Greek means no place. And no place has Justin Trudeau followed through on any of his promises. Justin Trudeau is not worth the cost, the crime, and corruption. And we will replace him after the carbon tax election with a Conservative government that will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
Thank you. This will be the final question.
Sorry, Mr. Poilievre, the federal government has already approved BC's request to roll back the use of public drugs in public places, I believe, including hospitals. How does your proposed legislation differ on that front in terms of how does your policy differ in terms of addressing that issue in addition to what's already being done?
Well, first of all, it would ban the minister from ever granting decriminalization of hard drugs, illicit drugs, unauthorized drugs in hospitals. My worry is that Trudeau will do it again. Remember, when he first ran in 2015, he said it was all disinformation when we suggested he was going to allow hard drugs. Well, it turned out it wasn't disinformation. So now he has a request from Toronto, from Montreal, to decriminalize drugs in other places. And we believe that he will do that if he gets the chance. And we're saying we're not going to let him. We will not allow Justin Trudeau to decriminalize hard drugs, illegal, unauthorized, unprescribed drugs like crack and heroin in Toronto, Montreal, British Columbia, or any other hospitals across the country. Enough with the radical, wacko drug legalization. Let's get back to a common sense plan to ban the drugs, treat addiction, and bring our loved ones home drug-free. Thank you.
Live from Davos, join us all week for exclusive interviews in Davos.
The meeting of the World Economic Forum is underway at Davos.
Path forward in today's geopolitical and economic
advances in generative AI.
One of the key topics here in Davos this year.
This time is about rebuilding trust.
Geopolitical divides are preventing us from coming together around global solutions for global challenges. People everywhere are losing faith in governments, institutions, and financial and economic systems.
We have seen a dangerous divergence. Richer countries doing much better than poor countries. This divergence matters not only to the people impacted, it matters to all of us because it undermines global security.
Poverty anywhere is a threat to prosperity everywhere.
We cannot think of eradicating poverty without caring about climate, healthcare, food insecurity, and fragility.
We all need to have the ability of dealing with all of these issues at the same time because we don't have a choice.
The hottest year on record was last year. We really are turning our planet into something that's being destroyed by the minute.
Developed world must do more. They are talking a lot, they're acting less.
Los $100 millones de París ya no son nada. La cantidad que se necesita cada año es 30 veces superior.
There is a strong dependence to fossil base that we cannot simply ignore. Then the investments need to be for the future, for green energy.
Only 1 in 8 people actually have 1 or more green skills. We need to figure out a way to reskill millions of people.
At the speed at which things are going, everybody needs training, the frontline workers as well as the white-collar workers.
While governments hold many of the levers
to deal with the great challenges of our time, business have the innovation, the technology, the talents to deliver the solutions we need.
AI has been somewhat demystified because people really use it now. And that's, I think, always the best way to pull the world forward with a new technology.
We've never had a broad general-purpose technology that diffused to all corners of the globe and created abundance equally. We have a shot at it.
It has lots of dark sides to it as well. We have over 70 major elections that are happening this year, and all of those can go the way the voters want, or AI can change that.
The power of AI must be managed. Once you build that solid foundation, you want to use it to reach for the stars.
AI could not have developed to the state that it has without collaboration.
过去几十年，经济全球化取得了巨大的进展，很大程度上还是得益于各国之间的相互信任。
We need to think of globalization differently, and we need to make sure that those who did not benefit during the first round benefit this time.
We need a new model for growth that is proactive, not reactive, that is about pre-distribution, not redistribution.
We have to rebuild trust, and most importantly, trust in each other.
It's important for us as leaders to create a culture where people feel like they belong, where they can bring their whole self.
Companies and economies are in a worse financial situation when they're not inclusive. The math has been done a million times.
Too often, young girls are withheld basic access to education and advancement that could spark a brighter future for all of us.
What are we leaving our children for the future? Are they going to inherit prosperity, or are they going to inherit conflicts?
That type of intergenerational responsibility is what has been lacking in the way that the world is being run, and we want to bring that spirit back.
The secret sauce is leadership. We're not in the audience, we're in the field. Sometimes we fail, but that's the only way we will resolve this.
Bonjour, Canada. On behalf of Sophie and myself, as we gather around pools and lakes and oceans for Canada Day with friends, family, and neighbors to share in snacks, sweets, and our favorite foods. We would like to wish you a safe and enjoyable Canada Day, and thank you for being Canadian and doing what Canadians do best. Live in Canada. Happy Canada Day 2021.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics. Hey gang, what's up? Just Ehren right here, Question Period Canada, learning all about Canadian federal politics, sharing that with you. We've got these committee meetings, they're so exciting, guys. We get to see all the heavy. Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics. Hey gang, what's up? Just Ehren right here, Question Period Canada, learning all about Canadian federal politics, sharing that with you. We've got these committee meetings, they're so exciting, guys. We get to see all the heavy hitters, Rachel Thomas, Larry Brock, Michael Barrett, Michael Cooper, Stephanie Cousy, Shannon Stubbs, Rick Perkins. There are so many heavy hitters, and the witnesses are always difficult. They never have the right answers. It's super interesting every time. Let's get into it. Let's check out another crazy committee video. Let's check it out.
Did you have any restraints put on you on the information that you were able to access when you were employed by the current president of the CBSA?
I will begin by taking issue with repeated references to me having lied, fibbed, or being demonstrably dishonest. I corrected my testimony last October, and I apologized for not remembering all those who attended a Teams meeting from 3 years ago. Mr. Chair, not remembering is not lying. What more does the committee want from me? On Tuesday, May 14th, it was further implied that as a result of my casual employment status with the CBSA that I was gaining some improper business advantage. The sole purpose of this arrangement is to facilitate my access to my emails, calendar, and get the support required to prepare for a committee appearance. Let me be clear, no business advantage has been sought or received as a result of this arrangement, and I have always followed all conflict of interest requirements of myself. I would now like to remind the committee of the exceptional circumstances we found ourselves in during the spring of 2020. We were shutting down the largest unprotected border in the world while trying to ensure that critical supply chains remained functional for the essential trade of food, medicine, personal protective equipment, etc. We had repatriation flights for Canadians returning home and had to manage a myriad of issues with the United States. Coordinating all of this with our U.S. counterparts and supporting the government in this historic time was my priority. ArriveCan helped us administer the pandemic border measures, and I relied upon my officials to deal with the procurement details. With respect to the Auditor General's report, the agency has accepted the findings and put measures in place to ensure this type of situation doesn't happen again. As has been stated by the Auditor General, the rules were in place, but unfortunately it appears they were not always followed. I would now like to offer the following important context. Excuse me. We were asked by the Public Health Agency to develop the app to replace a paper process so they could get critical health information and pass that along to provinces in a timely manner. This was not planned for in any way. Certainly at the beginning, there was no budget, there was no project plan, or any of the other things we would normally have in place for the development of a tool like this. It was about responding as quickly as possible. And no one could have predicted at that time the dozens of versions that would be required to support the orders in council. Excuse me. Mr. Chair, mobile app expertise is a relatively new field for the government, and while the agency had some nascent capability, it was not sufficient, especially as the app changed frequently and became increasingly complex. While the Auditor General stated very clearly that at the outset getting outside support was reasonable, the value for money assessment appears to be partially based on the expectation that we should have hired public servants at less cost to do this work. I find this expectation downplays some important facts. First of all, these skills are in high demand, and the committee has heard that there is roughly a 30% vacancy in IT positions in the government, so I'm not sure we could have run a successful staffing process. Second, it takes months to hire somebody. Finally, with respect to funding, I would remind the committee that the agency absorbed a significant portion of these expenses and that there was no ongoing funding. While make-or-buy decisions are made by managers, hiring public servants with an ongoing source of funds is not considered a prudent management practice. To be clear, as the end of the pandemic was starting to come into sight and border volumes were increasing, what we needed was more border service officers, not app developers. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. We're going to begin our first round. Mr. Barrett, you have the floor for 6 minutes, please.
Mr. Ossowski, you were the president of the Canada Border Service Agency, is that correct? And how are you employed now?
I work with PricewaterhouseCoopers.
And what's your position with PricewaterhouseCoopers?
My classification is a managing director, but I'm a senior strategic advisor.
And as a senior strategic advisor, are you aware of how much business your firm does with the Government of Canada?
Yes.
And how much business is that?
I don't have those numbers with me today.
Okay. Would you care to offer an estimation of how much business it is?
That's corporate information that I'm not privy to share.
You're not privy
to
share?
I'm privy to, but I'm not in a position to share. That's something for the firm to respond to that question.
So the value of contracts between your firm and the Government of Canada is not something that you're prepared to share with us?
That's not my information to share. That's the firm's information.
Sorry, I think it's germane, but we're going to circle back to it. We know that PricewaterhouseCoopers does significant business with the Government of Canada and formerly did business with the agency that you were the head of, the CBSA. You talked about taking a casual employment with the CBSA so that you could access information while you were concurrently working in a senior strategic advisory role for PricewaterhouseCoopers, a firm that does significant business with the Government of Canada, an amount so great and so sensitive you're not even prepared to disclose it to the committee today. Did you have any restraints put on you on the information that you were able to access when you were employed by the current president of the CBSA in preparation for your testimony before a parliamentary committee?
The letter of offer that was offered to me and I signed had conflict of interest provisions in it. I have access to my email and my calendar and other documents associated with events in the emails and the calendar.
So to be clear, the events,
if I may finish, I've recused myself from all work with CBSA while at public work, PwC.
Yeah, we've seen the record of the CBSA under your leadership on conflicts of interest. We heard testimony from CBSA officials about boozy dinners with contractors that were working for the CBSA. So you'll have to excuse me if I don't put great stock in the seriousness with which you viewed the conflict of interest requirements that you said you would follow. You said that you had access to any documents related to items in your calendar and email. Well, as the president of the CBSA, I'd imagine that would be pretty significant. And working for a firm that hired the former head of the CBSA, having previously done business with the CBSA, and doing excess of tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in business with the Government of Canada, it seems that there would be a commercial advantage to having their senior advisor, an executive with this firm, to have access to all of their information from their calendar, emails, and associated documents when you were given that employment by Ms. O'Gorman. What date were you given access to the CBSA?
I don't recall the specific date. It was sometime in January initially to prepare for my January 18th, and then it was restarted again in February.
Can you please furnish this committee with the assigned offer of employment?
I believe that's in the possession of the agency. I don't have a copy of myself.
You don't have a copy of any of the employment documents, so you took a job with the CBSA and didn't keep a copy?
I'll look for it, but I think you're better off to get that from the agency. They would have a record of that.
Well, if you have it, I would be best to get it from you because we've asked for it from you.
I will look for it, and if I have it, I will certainly provide it.
Thank you. You still have 2 minutes. Pardon me, I was acknowledging the witness. You have 2 minutes.
Thanks very much. You were paid for your casual employment to access the documents in preparation for your testimony, that's correct?
I was asked to submit hours for my preparation, and I submitted 1 day.
And how much were you paid?
It was roughly $500.
So you were paid $500 to get access to internal files and documents, which I think I've already articulated is a highly questionable decision, and certainly raises ethical questions when based on your current employment and based on your employer's interest in the commercially sensitive information at the CBSA. Do you have a list of all of the documents, or are you still in possession of the documents that you retrieved in preparation for your committee appearance?
Mr. Chair, the one document that I was actually provided with, besides looking at my emails and calendars, was the ATIP that was provided to OGO, which is several hundred pages long, and I did not even look at it. I know that you asked Ms. O'Gorman for the forensics of what I've touched when I'm in there, and I'll leave it up to them to provide that information to you. I think you'll find it fairly underwhelming.
Well, I find it very interesting because the president of the CBSA said that you had access to any of the documents that you would have had access to as president of the CBSA.
While that may be the case, I did not access anything or take any advantage that would put me in any conflict of interest.
Yeah, I can't take it at face value, the seriousness with which you've approached the conflict of interest document that you signed, knowing the casual relationship with avoidance of a conflict of interest that your department had under your leadership. I mean, what better way for a big consulting firm to drum up new business with the CBSA when they've been cutting big checks with very little accountability than to have their former president, now employee, being able to get access to all of the documents that he had while working as the head of that
agency. Mr. Chair, I feel compelled to respond to this.
I'll allow it. Go ahead, yes.
Thank you. Given all that's gone on for this ArriveCAN discussion over the last couple of years, do you really believe that I would further put myself into jeopardy by pursuing something that had some conflict of interest?
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics. So what do you think, gang? Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Point of order, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair. These videos are so crazy. Things that...
First of all, what is this Great Reset? Pierre Poilievre, the federal conservative finance critic, recently raised concerns about this, and then he was attacked by some in the media and by the Liberals for supposedly circulating conspiracy theories. Well, the Great Reset is actually the name of a book by a very prominent advocate of it. His name is Klaus Schwab. He sent me a copy. I guess he sent one to probably every government leader around the world. And Klaus Schwab's thesis in his book is that governments and societies, the world, should, quotes, seize the opportunity of the public health and economic crisis to reimagine the world and radically change policies. Now, in what ways? I would describe it as a grab bag of left-wing ideas for less freedom and more government, for more government intervention, for policies that would, I think, create massive poverty, particularly energy policy, policies that he is advocating. So Klaus Schwab, by the way, is the president and founder of the World Economic Forum, also known as the Davos Summit. I call it the biggest gathering of global hypocrites in history. It's a little ski village in Switzerland, and every, I think, February, a couple of thousand super rich people, a lot of billionaires, millionaires, global CEOs, and politicians fly into Davos with hundreds of private airplanes. They go into Switzerland, and they spend a week basically lecturing the rest of the world, including especially working women and men, about how they should reduce their carbon footprint. The hypocrisy in that crowd is so thick you can't even cut it with a knife. And so, no, I'm not going to be taking any policy direction from Klaus Schwab or his ilk. And what I find offensive, look, the so-called Great Reset is not a conspiracy theory. It is an actual set of concrete proposals being advocated by some very influential people, and including, apparently, by Prime Minister Trudeau, who clearly alluded to it, referred to it, quoted from it, the Schwab theory, in a speech he gave to the United Nations a couple of months ago. So it's not a conspiracy theory to talk about that. Those are the folks advocating it. And I think it's perfectly legitimate for democratically elected leaders, for me to say, heck no, we're not going to exploit or take advantage of a crisis to advance a political agenda. If we're actually all
Oh, hello. Do you have a warrant to be here?
Maybe there's a little grass growing right along here. Some happy little things.
I love you, you love me. We all own our own bodies, so marry who you want and do whatever drugs you choose. And when it's time, you can die with dignity by determining your own end-of-life plan.
Hi, Maria!
Hi, Officer Winkles!
How you doing today?
I don't have to answer that question.
That is correct!
I'm recording you!
Am I being detained?
Nope!
Which I can legally do because I'm in a public place!
Come back if you have a warrant!
Alrighty!
Know your rights!
Yay!
Okay, Gumshoes, Carmen Sandiego is in a country where socialism failed. That narrows it down to Venezuela, Cuba, the former Soviet Union, Moldova, Laos, Vietnam, Albania, Angola.
So we did some digging into your past.
Oh, the suspense is killing me!
But we still haven't solved the case, Holmes. Why is marijuana a Schedule I drug?
Elementary, my dear Watson. Nixon and racism.
What?
You okay?
I don't know.
Hey man, it's alright. It's alright. We've got qualified immunity. Qualified immunity. It's not for you, it's just for me. I shot your dog.
I shot your wife.
I get to go on with my life.
My favorite part is where the character says, I do not want green eggs and ham. And then Sam I Am says, that's fine. You don't have to eat them. That's your right. The end. It's a short book.
Here we see one of the last taxicab monopolies struggling for life. Competitors have entered their ecosystem.
Do you know what eminent domain abuse is? It's when the government decides the neighborhood of make-believe is better used by a Taiwanese LCD manufacturer.
Today we have a real senator. Hello, Senator.
How are you doing?
What is your favorite color?
I would have to say blue.
Me too. Tell me, why did you sell all your stock right before the crash?
I mean, it's literally just the tragedy of the commons, but they made it cute.
And that sound means we're in international waters. I'm gonna marry a robot and sell my kidney on eBay.
My dearest Rowena, today the district attorney filed criminal charges against a two-door sedan.
Carmen Sandiego is hiding in a country that contains an American military base. Is she in Australia, Bahrain, Belgium, Brazil, Bulgaria, the British Indian Ocean Territory, Cuba, Germany, Djibouti?
Menace.
Circle, square, rectangle, war factory.
All right, Jack, where is your gay wedding cake?
I refuse to bake a gay wedding cake, and you can't force me to. It's my right.
That is your right, but it is my right to kick you off of this show. Please leave.
Yep.
You homophobic bearded meat goblin.
I just want enough to warm it up some. I don't want to set it on fire. It's very easy to set it on fire.
Well, today on This Old House, we're at the city zoning office because they think our new porch is 2 inches too close to the sidewalk, which is f***ing bullshit because their sidewalk is too far away from the street, which they'd know about if they'd read any of the emails I'd sent them over the past 18 months. So join us as we waste our whole f***ing day on this shit.
The premiere of Thomas the High-Speed Rail has been delayed again. And at the 10 Bitcoin level, you receive a handsome tote bag.
Quack! Good one!
Quiet!
Very good!
Queen!
What else starts with the letter Q?
Space lasers.
Oh.
John Podesta and Hillary Clinton had an email exchange about hot dogs.
Where do we get these puppets?
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and you have a right to defend your house with firearms. With firearms.